Revelation 21. One chapter from the end of this book. Yochanan, John. And I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. Isaiah 65:17. And we're going to read all of this and then come back because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cross references and 27 verses. So let's read the whole thing and then we'll come back. And I, Yochanan, the Apostle John, saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. And I, Yochanan, saw the set-apart city, renewed Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the heaven saying, See, the booth of Elohim, the tabernacle of Elohim, is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them, and be their Elohim. And Elohim, God, shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor mourning, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former matters have passed away. And he who is sitting on the throne, Yeshua, said, See, I make all matters new. And he said to me, Write, for these words are true and trustworthy. And he said to me, It is done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give of the fountain of the water of life without payment. To the one who overcomes shall inherit all of this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. But as for the cowardly, and the untrustworthy, and the abominable, and the murderers, and those who whore, and drug sorcerers, and idolaters, and all the false, their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. And one of the 7 messengers who held the 7 bowls filled with the 7 last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, Come, I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away, the messenger, in the spirit, to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, set apart Jerusalem, descending out of the heaven from Elohim, having the esteem of Elohim, and her light was like the most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and having a great and high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers, angels, and the names written on them, which are those of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. And he who spoke with me had a golden measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its walls. And the city lies 4-cornered, and its length is as great as its breadth. And he measured the city with the rod. 12,000 stadia the length, and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured its wall, 144 forearms, according to the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger, of an angel. And the structure of its wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned of all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the 4th emerald, the 5th sardonyx, the 6th ruby, the 7th chrysolite, the 8th beryl, the 9th topaz, the 10th chrysoprase, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were the 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl. And the street of the city was clean gold, like transparent glass. And I saw no dwelling place, no temple in it, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its dwelling place, and the Lamb. And the city had no need for sun, nor the moon, to shine in it, for the esteem of Elohim lightened it, and the Lamb is its lamp. We're going to come back to that. And the nations of those who are saved, we're going to come back to that, shall walk in its light, and the kings of the earth shall bring their esteem into it. And its gates shall not be shut at all by day, for night shall not be there. And they shall bring the esteem of the appreciation of the nations into it. And there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So this chapter begins with a direct quote from Isaiah 65. And I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. For the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. Okay, so something significant has happened here. The judgments that have taken place on the earth, to the point now one could infer from the text, the earth as we knew it is no longer livable. So because of that, I, John, saw the set-apart city renewed at Jerusalem coming down out of the heaven from Elohim. So it's important to point out here our biblical concept of heaven, like when we're all in heaven with God, it's going to be on earth after the earth is remade. And heaven, air quote, is Jerusalem, the set-apart city. This is where the bride of Elohim, some would say the church, I would submit the remnant of the church, as we've seen here in Revelation, is joined to the bridegroom, Yeshua. So where do believers go? They go to heaven. Asterisk. What is heaven? It is the renewed Jerusalem, in the renewed heaven and the renewed earth, after all this comes to pass. Coming down out of the heaven from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So the ketubah covenant, the marriage covenant between the bride and the bridegroom, is consummated in Jerusalem. One might want to think about that when you look at Matthew chapter 22 with the, well, let's just go there. Matthew chapter 22. And Yeshua responded and spoke to them again by parables and said, the kingdom of the heavens is like a king who made a wedding feast for his son. And sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. And again he sent out other servants, the prophets, saying to those who were invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fattened cattle are slaughtered, and all is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they disregarded it and went their own way. This went to his field, this went to his trade, and the rest, having seized his servants, insulted and killed them, the prophets. But when the king heard, Yah, he was wroth, and sent out his soldiers, and destroyed those murderers, and set their city on fire. Well, that sounds a little revelation-y, wouldn't you say? Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast indeed is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore, go to the street corners, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding feast. And those servants, one could perhaps say the Great Commission, the apostles and everybody downstream from there, and those servants went out into the street corners and gathered all whom they found, both wicked and good. And the wedding hall was filled with guests. And when the king came in to view the guests, he saw there was a man who had not put on a wedding garment. And he said to him, friend, how did you come in here not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. How did you get in here? You're not part of the family. And the king said to his servants, bind him hand and foot, take him away, and throw him into the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. A remnant, perhaps. Here's the endurance of the saints, those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. Revelation 21:3, and I heard a loud voice from the heavens saying, see, the booth of Elohim is with men, the tabernacle of Elohim. And then this here, in the second to last book of the entire Bible, second to last chapter of the last book in the entire Bible, is a direct quote from Leviticus 26:11 and 12. See, the booth of Elohim is with men. He shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. So this big C Christian concept of all that stuff was done away with, why is it constantly reoccurring as a fulfillment of the promises made to Abraham, fulfilled through Yeshua and the renewed covenant? Now at the Ketubah covenant union, the marriage of the bride and the bridegroom, do we see Leviticus 26 directly quoted, almost as if it wasn't all done away with. And Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eye. See, sin cannot exist in the presence of the Father. We know this. Isaiah says, your sins have created a separation between you and your Elohim. 1 John 3 verse 4 says, sin is lawlessness. Friend, how did you get in here? You don't have a wedding garment. Cast him into the outer darkness. Right? But as for the cowardly and the untrustworthy and the abominable and murderers and those who whore and drug sorcerers and idolaters and all the false, their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So, sin cannot exist in the presence of the Father. Sin is lawlessness. So you must be lawful to be in the presence of the Father. This is biblical. Doesn't matter what doctrines and dogmas say. Doesn't matter what men have said. Our witness, where are we here? We're in Revelation, 1 John, 2 Peter, 1 John 5. If we receive the witness of men, 1 John 5 verse 9, if we receive the witness of men, the witness of Elohim is greater, because this is the witness of Elohim, which he has witnessed concerning his son. Okay, so some dude said to you, roger that, the witness of Elohim is greater, and we're reading Elohim's word now. And so we might be pissed off that we were lied to intentionally or unintentionally, but Yah's will still will not return to him void. It is what it is. I'm the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth, I change not. Malachi 3 verse 6. Revelation 21:4, and Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor mourning, nor crying. Look at the imagery here. Elohim himself is wiping the tears from your eyes. You're now united to Elohim by the blood of Yeshua, with him as mediator of the renewed covenant, Hebrews chapter 8. And Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor mourning, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former matters have passed away. All that's gone. It's all done away. That earth literally doesn't exist anymore. And I think, I'm as my pastor would say, I'm not preaching on this, but I think there's an intonation of a proof text here that we're not physical beings anymore at this point either. For the former matters have passed away. And he who was sitting on the throne, Yahweh, said, see, I make all matters new. And he said to me, write, for these words are trustworthy and true. And there's a hearkening here to Isaiah chapter 33 in this passage. Yeshayahu 33. Yahweh is exalted, for he dwells on high. He has filled Zion with right ruling and righteousness. Verse 5. And he shall be the trustworthiness of your times, a wealth of deliverance, wisdom and knowledge, the fear of Yahweh. That is his treasure. See, the brave one shall cry outside, the messengers of peace weep bitterly. The highway shall be deserted, the wayfaring man shall have ceased. He has broken the covenant. That's why he's outside the city. He has displeased the cities. He respected no man. The earth shall mourn and languish. Lebanon shall be ashamed. Sharon shall be withered like a desert, and Bashan and Carmel be shaking. Now I rise up, declares Yahweh. Now I am exalted. Now I am lifted up. You conceive chaff. You bring forth stubble. Your spirit devours you like fire. And people shall be like the burnings of lime. The thorns cut up, they are burned in the fire. You who are afar off, hear what I shall do. And you who are near, know my might. Sinners in Zion shall be afraid, trembling shall grip the defiled ones. Who of us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who of us shall dwell with everlasting burning? He who speaks righteously and speaks what is straight, he who rejects the gain of oppressions, he who keeps his hand from accepting bribes, who stops his ears from hearing bloodshed and shuts his eyes from seeing evil, he shall inhabit the heights. Strongholds of rock shall be his refuge. His bread shall be given to him. His water be steadfast. And your eyes shall see the king in his comeliness, see in a land that is far off. See Zion, the city of our appointed time. Your eyes shall see Jerusalem, an undisturbed home, a tent, a booth, a tabernacle, not taken down. Revelation 21:5, and he who is sitting on the throne said, see, I make all matters new. And he said to me, write, for these words are trustworthy and true. And he said, Yahweh said, it is done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give the fountain of life, fountain of the water of life without payment. When the Israelites were on their sojourn through the wilderness, the Moabites and the Ammonites, the children of Ammon, would not let the Israelites pass through their land. And the Israelites were like, look, we will literally pay for the water we drink. We won't take an ounce of food. Just let us pass through. And I said, nah. And from that comes a command in the Torah that the children of Moab and the children of Ammon shall not enter the assembly of Yahweh to the 10th generation, because they failed to show loving kindness to Israel. And Yahweh now, in his loving kindness, as he's wiping away tears, he's like, I will give you waters from the fountain of life without payment. Now, verse 7, the one who overcomes, and I've said every time you see that, especially in Revelation, underline it, because that is Israel. Israel means biblically, Genesis 32, he who is struggling with Elohim, he who is overcome with Elohim, and he who is ruling with Elohim. So Israel, the one who overcomes, shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. This is relationship language here. The one who overcomes, Israel, shall inherit all of this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. Hold on to that phrase in your mind and flip to Hebrews chapter 8. And look at the renewed covenant. Starting at verse 6. But now he, Yeshua, has obtained a more excellent service, inasmuch as he is also mediator, the go-between, of a better covenant, which was constituted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been found faultless, then no place would have been sought for a second. Hold on with your arguments, because the issue was not the covenant. Covenant's just an agreement between two or more parties. The issue is one of the parties, not the covenant, not the agreement. See verse 8. For finding fault with them, he says, see, the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I shall conclude with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. The house of who? Israel and Judah. A renewed covenant. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mitzrayim, because they did not continue in my covenant, and I disregarded them, says Yahweh. Because this is the covenant that I shall make with the house of Israel. The one who overcomes shall inherit all of this. This is the covenant that I shall make with the house of Israel. This is the word of God. This is a direct quote by Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, in Hebrews chapter 8, directly quoting from Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34. This renewed covenant is so new, Big C Christians, it's so new that it comes out of the Old Testament, the book of Jeremiah. Yeah, that's how new it is. So before you go hanging your hat in victory on the wall, I got you, Bear, we're under the new covenant. That new covenant comes from the Old Testament. And let's look at the condition of this covenant. Because this is the covenant that I shall make with the house of Israel after those days, to he who overcomes, says Yahweh, giving my laws, my Torah, in their mind, and I shall write them, the Torah, on their hearts, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And they shall by no means teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, because they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them. Because I shall forgive their unrighteousnesses and their sins and their lawlessness, their Torahlessness, I shall no longer remember. The one who overcomes shall inherit all of this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. And I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people, giving my laws in their mind, and I shall write them on their hearts, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. The one who overcomes shall inherit all of this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. A little bit of similarity there. But, and I love that this starts with but. As for the cowardly. What a rebuke from the creator of the universe. As for the cowardly. You don't understand, Bear. It's just too hard. I can't keep the Torah. I wasn't raised that way. My wife won't let me. It's too hard. I love bacon. I have to work on Saturday. I can't get the time off from work to keep the feasts. Here's the endurance of the saints. Revelation 14:12. Those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. So the one who overcomes, Israel, shall inherit all of this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. And now here's the compare-contrast. Israel on the one hand, who's inheriting all of this goodness from Yah, and then on the other hand, but as for the cowardly, the untrustworthy, and by the way, trustworthy throughout all the scriptures refers to those who kept the Torah. The untrustworthy, those who didn't keep the Torah, and the abominable, and we know from Deuteronomy 32, abominations provoke the Father against us, and the murderers, that's a direct strike against the Big Ten, Exodus chapter 20, and those who whore, that's a Big Ten, and drug sorcerers, that's all over the Torah, don't do that, and idolaters, the Big Ten, and all the false, and everything else, all the false, anything that's against the word of Yah, their part, where do they go? So rather than compare contrast, rather than inheriting all of this goodness from Yah, their part, these other people, their part is in the lake of fire, the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. This is the same lake of fire where death and Sheol are thrown. The second death. This is the same lake of fire where the beast and the Antichrist and the false prophet are thrown. This is the domain of Satan. Death and hell, death in the grave. The second death. This is the death of your soul. So the first death, everybody dies. This physical meat sleeping bag that your soul inhabits, everybody dies. And then everybody, and I know this is going to trip a bunch of y'all out, everybody's resurrected unto judgment. That's why we see in the next chapter, the last chapter of this book, and see, I'm coming speedily, and my reward is with me to give to each according to his work. What did you do? Did you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength? Did you love your neighbor as yourself? What were your works? You shall know them by their fruits. Be not just hearers of the word, but doers also. Did you knowingly transgress against Yah? Lake of fire, bro. Second death. Soul, light switch off. You are no more. You cease to exist. And one of the seven messengers, the seven angels, who held the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues, came to me and spoke to me, saying, Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. Ooh, that's us. And he, the messenger, carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, the set apart Jerusalem, Isaiah 2 imagery here, descending out of the heaven from Elohim, having the esteem, the glory of Elohim. And her light was like a most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. And having a great and high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers, 12 angels. So remember at the Garden of Eden, Yah set an angel at the entryway to the Garden of Eden to guard it. Well, now in the New Jerusalem, there's 12 gates and there's 12 angels, one at each gate. And the names written on these gates, remember, second to last chapter in the Bible, the names written on them, which are those of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Yeah, the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. Now, this is a similar layout, north, south, east, west, as to the camp layout during the Exodus, when the children of Israel were sojourning in the wilderness. What's interesting is if we go to Ezekiel 48, there's some commentary on this. The vision that John is having is a second witness, perhaps is the term that we could use for the vision that Ezekiel's having, Yehezkel, in Ezekiel 48. So let's flip there. Come on. Ezekiel 48, verse 30. Now, there's a lot going on in Ezekiel, Yehezkel. If we look at verse 29, this is the land which you divide by lot as an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. Among the who? Inheritance. Remember, the one who overcomes shall inherit all of this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. This is the land which you divide by lot as an inheritance among the tribes of the children of Israel. And these are their portions, declares the master Yahweh. Verse 30. And these are the exits of the city, the gates of the city, according to the names of the tribes of Israel. On the north side, measuring 4,500 cubits. 3 gates northward, 1 gate for Reuben, for Judah, for Levi. East side, 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Joseph. Remember, Joseph is the twin tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. 1 gate for Benjamin, 1 gate for Dan. Now, we need to talk about Dan. We're going to come back around. On the south side, measuring 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Simeon, 1 gate for Issachar, 1 gate for Zebulun. And on the west side, 4,500 cubits, and there 3 gates, Gad, Asher, and Naphtali. All around 18,000 cubits. And the name of the city from that day is Yahweh is there. The name of the city from that point forward is Yahweh is there. Look at Revelation 21, verse 3. See, the booth of Elohim is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. The name of this city, Jerusalem, is Yahweh is there. Now, one of these gates is for Dan. As we saw earlier in the book of Revelation, book 12, or chapter 7. Dan's not here. Dan FAFO'd. Dan Horde, and Dan's not here anymore. So this is me speculating. If Ezekiel's vision in Ezekiel 48:30 is a second witness, or the first witness of John's vision here in Revelation 21 is the second witness to Ezekiel, and there is a gate of Dan. Why? Maybe as a reminder, don't FAFO. Don't mess around. Don't whore against Yahweh. In fact, we saw in verse 8, 21:8, murderers, those who whore, drug sorcerers, and idolaters, and all the false, their part is in the lake of fire. Perhaps it's a reminder, and again, this is me just spitballing here. Maybe it's an homage. I don't know. It's okay. And these are the things in Judaism, the Yehudim, they call these the hukim. They're the commands that we're supposed to keep because God said so, but they don't make all that much sense to us. And the short answer to this is, I don't know. I also find it interesting, if we look at the layout that's given in Ezekiel chapter 48, which tribes are where, on what side, does not match up to the Exodus. Don't know. I simply don't know. Reuben, Judah, Levi, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan. It's not even in the order of birth. I don't know. Would love your commentary in the comments if you have a productive comment on that. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why they're out of order. And I don't know why Dan, who's not here, has a gate named after him. But the overarching theme here is the names of these gates are of the children of Israel. They're not the Catholic gate and the Protestant gate and the Mormon gate and the Jehovah's Witness gate and the Assembly of God gate and the Pentecostal gate. You know, they're not that. They're the 12 tribes of Israel. Verse 14, and the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. Just like we saw the 24 elders representing the 12 tribes and the 12 apostles, now we have 12 gates named after the tribes of the children of Israel, and these 12 foundations, and on them are the names of the 12 emissaries, the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So the joining here, Revelation 14, verse 12, here is the endurance of the saints, those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach, these foundations with the apostles' name on them, and keep the commands, the gates with the 12 tribes of Israel's names on them. And he who spoke to me had a golden measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its walls. And the city lies four-cornered, and its length is as great as its breadth. So it's a square. It's actually a cube. And he measured the city with the rod, 12,000 stadia, 2,216 kilometers, or 1,377 miles. That's a good-sized chunk of land. Let's see. $1.9 million square miles. It's a good-sized chunk of land. And he measured the city with the rod, 12,000 stadia. The length and the breadth and its height are equal. So 3 dimensions here. Length, breadth, height. It's a cube. 1,377 miles long. Interesting number. It's an interesting number because you've got the 1, Yahweh. You've got the 3, spiritual completion. And then the 7, spiritual perfection on earth, twice. So it's like a double fist bump. Just saying. Interesting number. And he measured its wall, 144 forearms, 66 meters or 216 feet. According to the measure of a man, that is, a messenger of an angel. Now again, this is me just speaking here. I'm not preaching on this. I'm just saying. It's almost as if John catches himself in this writing. It's a forearm, like a cubit. According to the measure of a man, I mean, that is an angel. Are men now in the form of angels? I think that in this renewed heaven and this renewed earth, our physical bodies are a thing of the past. This is me speaking. I think we are in our perfected bodies. We are beings of light at this point, as we were intended to be from Genesis chapter 1. Because all that stuff that happened in between Revelation 21 all the way back to the book to Genesis chapter 1, done away with. In fact, Yahweh says in verse 4, "And there shall be no more pain, for the former matters have passed away." And he who is sitting on the throne says, "See, I make all matters new." Remember when Adam and Yahweh, Adam and Eve, were new? They were metaphysical beings, beings of light. They were spiritual beings. We are today, right now, we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. This meat sleeping bag that we wear for the time being is just for the time being. And that gets into the purpose of life. Why? Why are we here? Well, there's an answer for that. Let's go to the smartest man in the entire world. Ecclesiastes 12, verses 13 and 14. "Let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter. Fear, deeply respect Elohim, and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind." Not the Jews, not the Hebrews. For this applies to all mankind. Fear Elohim and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind. For Elohim shall bring every work into right ruling, including all that is hidden, whether good or evil. Righteous and right ruling. So John makes this allusion here in verse 17, 21:17. "And he measured its wall 144 forearms, according to the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger, of an angel." Again, I'm not preaching on it, but it sounds to me like these are not physical bodies anymore. The physicality of a man is being equated to that of an angel. "And the structure of its wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned of all kinds of precious stones." Now remember, the foundations are named after the apostles of Yeshua, the emissaries of the Lamb. The first foundation, jasper. Now, there's an interesting thing that's going to happen here. We're going to read all these different stones. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. The garments of the high priest. See right here? Here's Mr. High Priest Dude. And he's got these 12 stones in the center of his chest over his heart. And each one of these 12 stones, each stone represents a different tribe of Yisrael, of Israel. Who's the high priest? Yeshua HaMashiach. What is laid over his heart? The 12 tribes of Israel. Coincidence, I'm sure. So, these 12 stones. "And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation, jasper. The second, sapphire. The third, agate. The fourth, emerald. The fifth, sardonyx. The sixth, ruby. The seventh, chrysolite. The eighth, beryl. The ninth, topaz. The 10th, chrysoprase. The 11th, jacinth. And the 12th, amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl." Now, that's a gigantic pearl. Which begs the question here, is this literal or figurative? And the answer is, we'll find out. I don't know. Because a lot of what we have seen from John thus far in Revelation is John doing his absolute best to try to explain with the words that he has and the frame of reference that he has what he's looking at, but it's completely mind-blowing what he's looking at. So maybe it is literal. Maybe it's figurative. If it's literal, I don't put it past Yah to be able to create this thing. He created us. So I don't doubt if he made the heavens and the earth and the seas and everything that's in it, including us and every mineral and every tree and everything, I don't think it's beyond his ability to make a pretty cool looking city with like streets of gold and a whole bunch of jewels and gemstones and stuff. So it's possible that it could be literal. It's also possible that it's essentially figurative because John is incapable of explaining adequately with the words and frame of reference that he has precisely what he's looking at. I would submit, don't matter one way or the other. Like you hear oftentimes in the church, is it a matter of salvation? No, it's not. This is John giving us using the descriptors he has to the best of his ability to describe what he's looking at. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl. The streets of the city was clean gold, like transparent glass. And I saw no dwelling place. I saw no temple in it. For Yahweh El Shaddai is its dwelling place and the Lamb. Why would the Lamb be in the dwelling place? Because the Lamb's Yeshua. Yeshua is the high priest. If Yah is the temple, and the high priest is in the temple, Yeshua is in Yah, I and my Father am one, echad. Oof. The gravity of that statement is huge. It sums up probably tens of thousands of pages of attempts by theologians to explain how does the Trinity work? How can God be Jesus and Jesus be God, but one's physical and one's not, and Elohim is plural, and Yah is the dwelling place. He is the temple, and the Lamb is in it. The high priest is in the temple. They are echad. They are one together. Echad, joined together, and the two shall become one flesh. Echad, married together. And the city had no need for the sun nor the moon to shine in it, for the esteem of Elohim lightened it, and the Lamb is its lamp. Now, how does that work? Well, if the Lamb's Yeshua, we know that the Lamb's Yeshua, right? Flip over to Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. For the command is a lamp, and the Torah is a light, and reproofs of discipline a way of life. If you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Matthew 19, verse 17. For the command is a lamp, and the Torah is a light. The Lamb in Revelation 21 is its lamp. The Lamb is the lamp. What's the lamp? The commands are the lamp. The Torah is the light. So look at that. The city had no need of the sun nor the moon to shine it, for the esteem of Elohim lightened it. The glory of Elohim is the light. What's the light? The Torah. The glory of Elohim, the esteem of Elohim is the light, the Torah. Doctrine of Inerrancy, 1977. Let the Bible interpret the Bible. That's what we're doing, homie. And the Lamb, Yeshua, is its lamp. The lamp is the commands. Yeshua is the commands. If we go to Matthew 5:17. Do not think, Yeshua speaking, do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. Plerao is the Greek word. To be. I came to be it. For truly, truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one yod or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men to break the command, shall be called least in the kingdom of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heavens. For I say to you that unless your righteousness, blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah, Luke 1 verse 6, exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, those religious people over there, you shall by no means enter into the kingdom of heaven. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. He is the Torah and the prophets. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. What is the Word of God? Read the Torah. The commands are called the words. There's literally a book called Deuteronomy, aka Devarim in the Hebrew, that literally means the words. Devarim, the words. These are the words which Moshe spoke to Israel beyond the Jordan, which Moses spoke to Israel. Devarim. In the beginning was the Word, the Devar. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So yes, the Lamb is the lamp, because the lamp is the command, and Yeshua was the command, the Word made flesh. And the nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light. Shall walk in its light. Walking in the light of the Lamb. What's the light? Again, let's remember. The light is the Torah. The lamp is the commands. The nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light, and the kings of the earth shall bring their esteem to it. This word saved is something that bears a little bit of looking at, because we hear the word saved all the time in Christendom. Are you saved, brother? Let me give you the good news of the gospel of Jesus. Let's get you saved, brother. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Yes, I go there a lot, but I go there a lot for a very good reason, because it's a good tool in the toolkit for, dare I say, de-Christianizing some of the bad teachings that are out there. I'll be frank with you. Christianity is not biblical. It's based upon doctrines and dogmas. There's going to be a lot of people that weeping and gnashing of teeth, that weeping and gnashing of teeth is going to suck. And I know some of you right now are furiously typing in the comments section how unlike God that would be. God would never do that. My Jesus would never do that. To which I would refer you to Matthew 7, verse 21. Yeshua speaking. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the kingdom of the heavens. Not everybody who calls Jesus Master shall enter into the kingdom of heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Desire of who? Desire of my Father. If you love me, keep my commands. Yeah. Many shall say to me, Yeshua speaking in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. Weeping and gnashing of teeth. Many shall say to me, didn't we do all this cool stuff in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. And now with that word lawlessness in mind, again in the context of Revelation 21, go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. As to the coming of our Master, Yeshua Messiah, and our gathering together to him in end times, we ask you, brothers, this, by the way, is written by the Apostle Paul, Shaul of Tarsus. We ask you, brothers, not to become easily unsettled in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if it is from us, as if the day of Yahweh has come. Let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first, and the man of lawlessness is to be revealed, the son of destruction. The man of lawlessness is the son of destruction. It's not Messiah. It's the son of destruction, the Antichrist, Hasatan, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as Elohim in the dwelling place, in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim, showing himself that he's God. He sits in the temple of God, acting as God, showing himself that he is God. But he's not. He's the man of lawlessness, the son of destruction. Do you not remember that I told you this while I was still with you? And now you know what restrains for him to be revealed in his time. For the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who now restrains comes out of the midst. And then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the Master, Yeshua, shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. See, Yeshua and the lawless one can't be the same person, because Yeshua is consuming the lawless one. The lawless one is Satan. The Torahless one is Satan, and Yeshua destroys him. Then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the Master, Yeshua, shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and bring to naught with the manifestation of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan. I'm reading verbatim here. With all powers and signs and wonders of falsehood, and with all deceit of unrighteousness in those perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. They did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. The truth is the Torah. Ooh. And for this reason, Elohim sends them a working delusion for them to believe the falsehood, the lawlessness, in order that all should be judged who did not believe the truth, but have delighted in unrighteousness. So not believing the truth is equated to delighting in unrighteousness. What is righteousness? Luke 1 verse 6, blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah. So not believing in the truth is not blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah. Believing in the truth is blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah, righteousness. In order that all should be judged who did not believe the truth, but have delighted in the unrighteousness. We ought to give thanks to Elohim always for you, brothers, beloved by the Master, because Elohim from the beginning chose you to be saved in set apartness of spirit and in belief in the truth, unto which he called you by our good news, the truth, the Torah, the good news of Yeshua, for obtaining the esteem of the glory of our Master, Yeshua Messiah. Yeshua taught Torah. Yeshua never taught anything but the Torah. If he did teach anything but the Torah, according to the Torah, he'd be a false prophet. And he should have been killed by the Jews. But they messed up pretty bad because they killed the Savior of the world. But in doing so, they created the blood offering for all of our sin. And Yeshua allowed it. No man takes my life, I lay it down freely. Oof. The chutzpah on that guy, right? Like, that is some bravery right there. The truth is the Torah. Beloved by the Master, because Elohim from the beginning chose you to be saved in set apartness, sanctification, holiness of spirit, and in belief in the truth unto which he called you to the truth by our good news, by the gospel, for obtaining of the glory of our Master, Yeshua Messiah. So what does it mean to be saved? Belief in the truth, whom you got from your Mashiach, Yeshua Messiah. So back to Revelation 21:24. And the nations of those who are saved have the truth, worship in truth, keep the Torah because of their testimony in Yeshua, which dovetails again into Revelation 14 verse 12. Here's the endurance of the saints. And the nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light. What's the light? Proverbs 6:23, the Torah. And the kings of the earth bring their esteem into it. And its gates, the city, shall not be shut at all by day, for night shall not be there. Roger that. I guess it's like being up in northern Alaska. I wonder what the aurora borealis is going to look like. And they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation of the nations into it. And there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Daniel 12. You're not getting in there if you're unclean. Neither anyone doing any abomination, and falsehood, the opposite of truth, Torah. Falsehood, nailed to the cross. But only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. And that is a rather sobering revelation, chapter 21. I appreciate y'all. Shalom.